Hi, I'm Mark Wyborough.
And I'm Andy McNabb, and welcome to Electronic Cafe, episode 5. Let's get started. So welcome to Electronic Cafe, episode 5. Before I talk about what we're doing with the show going forward, I just want to remind everyone that there's still that amazing prize to win a signed copy of Welcome to the Dance Floor, which is by the amazing Mr. Rusty Egan, who's a co-contributor to this show. We obviously really appreciate his support. But yeah, all you need to do is subscribe. So let's say, please hit that subscribe button. We will announce the winner in the next episode. And we're kind of going to break the show into two distinct parts going forward. We think sometimes for some people time is precious, so when we're doing half-hour episodes it may be too long. So we're going to do two separate things. So we're keeping the Electronic Cafe as the kind of main overarching brand for what we do, but after that it will be the Electronic Cafe Legend or Legends edition, which we will talk about specific artists like we've done with Joy Division, Kraftwerk and Talk Talk. But then we're going to do a separate programme which will be like this one, which is the Electronic Cafe Hot Stuff. And what this means is for 10 or 15 minutes, Mark, myself and Rusty, when he's available, can talk about some of the cool albums that we're listening to. So you can look at potentially adding some new music to your collection. I think it's one of the best things to do, especially in this current climate, is to listen to some amazing music. And that's kind of the whole reason we set this up in the first place. So this is episode 5 of Electronic Cafe, but this is a Hot Stuff special. So as we go forward, start looking out for Electronic Cafe Legend editions, and then obviously like this one, Electronic Cafe Hot Stuff edition.
As you can see from the fact that Andy and I are recording this separately, the UK is still currently in lockdown, meaning, for the time being anyway, me and Andy will continue to record our parts separately rather than sitting side by side on the Electronic Cafe couch. However, this is no big deal. It is what it is, and hopefully the worst is behind us all and we're all in good shape, and we'll be able to carry on with our lives very soon, safely and listening to some good music.
So let's start looking at some cool stuff we're listening to right now. I'm going to be looking at 3 albums, and the first one that I want to kind of give you guys an overview on that I've really liked over the last couple of months is an album called Have We Met, by the artist known as Destroyer, whose real name is Dan Bijar. This is his 13th album, so I've only discovered him recently, but I really like his thought process in terms of the way he weaves really good sort of narratives and lyrics into what he does. There's some really nice washed out sort of synths and guitars, and just some just great tracks on it. There's one track, I think it's called Fall Song. It has a nice ambient sound, and I think it's been commented that it kind of refers or has essences of the sort of early Roichi Sakamoto and David Sylvian team up stuff that they did. So, and that's no surprise, apparently this guy said he's a big fan of them. But the lyrics, I think there's a real poetry with what he says. And if you've enjoyed anything this guy's done before, I think you'll love this album. And if you've never heard a Destroyer album before, you'll probably love it also. Definitely worth checking out. I really like this. And it's one of those albums that I think the more you play it, the more you'll fall in love with it. So yeah, check this out. This is the first album I want to review, and it's called Have We Met by Destroyer.
The idea of the world is no good. The terrain is no good.
So the second album I want to talk about is this one. This is by a band called Wrangler. The album's called A Situation, and this was recommended by Rusty as one of the albums he's been listening to just recently. They're kind of, I think they're kind of some kind of super group, so that's formed to kind of wrangle sounds out of old analog sort of synths, etc. Ben Edwards, who's better known as Benge, who I know has done some great work with Neil Wild from Blancmange. There's also Stephen Melinda from the legendary Cabaret Voltaire, and Phil Winter, who's also in a band called Tung, who I think I've got a couple of albums I quite like. This was originally just going to be an exploratory project, but they're now 2 albums in, They also did a collaboration with the fantastic John Grant, and that's another album worth checking out, actually, called Creepshow, which was done about 2 or 3 years ago. Really like that album as well. What I like about this, though, it's almost like it feels like there's a party fit for the end of time, which I know sounds a bit strange. There's some really sort of dystopian sounds, and some of it isn't made for easy listening, but it's just so cleverly constructed that you can't help yourself. And then there's not all doom and gloom, just to be clear. There's some really uplifting tracks. There's one track called A Situation. I think it's that. Yeah, that's the track I really like. It's kind of real and as funky as heck, actually. So I think you need to prepare yourself mentally for this. It's a challenging album, but I really like it, and definitely would say they're trying to break some ground despite using very distinctive tools in their armour, as it were. So yeah, definitely worth checking out this. I say I agree with Rusty, this is a good album. I say Wrangler, A Situation, so check it out. And finally, album number 3. I don't know if this is a case of saving the best to last, because all 3 are brilliant in different ways, but this album is just fantastic. It's a guy called Rob Marshall, who goes under the name Humanist, and I kind of loved one of the reviews I read that said it brilliantly explores the deep and dark recesses of the human race. And it pulls no punches, doesn't hold back with its industrial rock and sort of post-punk power, softened with some more reflective songs. So much more guitar-based than some of the stuff we'd normally recommend, but it has a distinct feel because of some of the guest artists on it. Marshall used to be guitarist of a band called Exit Calm, who I don't know much about. He comes from the northeast. I think he drew his inspiration from the sudden passing of a fellow musician and singer, a guy called Gavin Clarke. So this isn't only his first solo album, it's a project, but it's also his debut that he produced this as well, and there's some brilliant artists on this. So you got Mark Lanigan, obviously from the Screaming Trees, who's also gone on to have a great solo career, who I really like. I think he's done some guitar work with Mark previously, so that's why they got together. The brilliant Dave Gahan from Depeche Mode, which is a pretty big coup for him, and then Mark Gardner from Riot again, who I really like. So there's some really good stuff in this. The opening 2 tracks are kicked off with Lanigan's very distinct mountain moving vocals, which I absolutely love. Some good tracks in there, and then Shock Collar, which is Dave Gahan, and you know, it's really funny. I don't know if it's me, but some of the stuff I hear Gahan does with Soul Savers and stuff like this, his voice sounds richer and almost more released than some of the stuff he does with Depeche, which is still brilliant. But I just find some of the stuff I hear that he does outside of the mode is just, his voice sounds better, and his voice seems to be getting better with age, which is really good. There's one track I absolutely love. It's about 8 minutes long, called English Ghosts, and that's with John Robb from the Membranes. It's kind of a pure post-punk epic. But then you've got a track called In My Arms Again, which I think is featuring Joel Cadbury, and it's kind of reminiscent of some of the Dandy Warhol stuff. There's some really good stuff on here, and there's a closing track called Gospel, which quite rightly is finished with Mark Lanigan again. And it's just got it really captures the essence of our complex human sort of endeavour, I think. And I think Marshall himself puts it, you know, the music examines the ways we find meaning, the very liberation of the human spirit. So the album has real depth and authenticity, which is what I like about it. There is no doubt this album has a ton of credibility, and you know, it's I think credit's got to be given to this guy for having such a clear vision, and just to execute this so well. It is an outstanding debut album. I'm lucky to get a signed copy, which is great. Just getting Mark back for his hooky thing, obviously not quite as legendary, but you know, pretty cool. But yeah, all that aside, absolutely fantastic album. So as I say, the 3 albums I've recommended are Humanist by Humanist, which is that one, Wrangler, A Situation, and then finally Have We Met by Destroyer. go and check these guys out and let me know what you think of them. This is, like I said before, I'd love to get more feedback and some more interaction with our amazing audience. Just let us know what you think of them, and let us know if you're listening to stuff that's similar or you think might even be better. If we like it, we'll play it. We'll get it up there. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed those 3 recommendations. And, Marky, what are you listening to, buddy?
Okay, my first hot stuff tip is Race for Space by Public Service Broadcasting. If you don't know Public Service Broadcasting, they're a London-based band who mix traditional instruments with electronics, synths and sound samples. They have been given exclusive access by the British Film Institute and the National Archives to use, within their songs, sound bites and samples from public information films, newsreels and old Pathé news footage from historic events. Their first album, Inform, Educate, Entertain in 2013, featured themes ranging from the first expedition of Mount Everest, the invention of the colour television, road safety and the creation of the Spitfire aeroplane. Following the success of the first album, Public Service Broadcasting released this album, The Race for Space, in 2015. The Race for Space is more of a concept album and more cohesive than their debut album, working again with exclusive samples and archive footage from the British Film Institute. Over the 9 tracks, it tells, chronologically, the story of the American and Soviet space race between 1957 and 72. The opening track features the speech by John F. Kennedy through Sputnik, Yuri Gagarin, the moon landing, and onto the final Apollo mission in 1972, all done via the duo's eccentric mix of guitar-driven electronica, propulsive drumming, and cold spoken word samples. The album has won a number of awards, and their live shows include huge video projections so that the audience can witness the full video audio transmission. If you haven't already, it's worth checking out. It's very clever, well produced, and you will also learn something.
Our flight control team here in Mission Control has examined the data and it looks good. So we have a combined crew ground decision. We are go, repeat.
Sleeping Visions by Loveblind is my second album choice. Described as an international synthwave supergroup, Loveblind are all the more impressive for making music since 2017 without ever being in the same room. Spearheaded by St. Marie Records owner Wyatt Parkins in Texas, the other band members are based in Florida and Germany. After years of incremental recording, file transfers, phone calls and constant video chats, their debut album Sleeping Visions was released in 2020. The album opens with the abrasively industrial War Planets and constantly twists and turns. The single Daydream fully lives up to its title in its soaring, dreamy pop, and while White Piano Black Dress is another 90-degree turn with its massive shoegazing guitar work and punchy synth percussion. The debut album Loveblind is well worth checking out if you like 80s or 90s new wave synth, or indeed Sushi and the Banshees, Cocteau Twins, My Bloody Valentine, or particularly the alternative electronic rock band Placebo.
Remember the night thoughts and breath. Oh, keep calling me when you're sad. Oh, I keep the promise.
Do you know when you listen to an album and you hear a song and you go, wow, and you have to go back and listen to that song over and over again? Well, it happened to me on this album, my third hot stuff album choice, The Art of Doubt by Metric. The Art of Doubt is the 7th studio album by the Canadian alternative rock band Metric, released in 2018. All elements are present and correct. Synth heavy punchy bass and drums and great guitars, all with Emily Haynes' fantastic vocals and lyrics. Without doubt, Metric are back on their A game with this one. Dressed to Suppress was a massive single for this album. I love the way the first minute of that song is floaty and ethereal, then boom, it kicks in massively. The other big single was Dark Saturday. The production on this album is also worth a mention. Absolutely top notch with great sonic separation between each of the parts. Go check this album out. And also it might lead you to go back and check out their previous albums too. Synthetica from 2012 and Fantasies from 2009 are both worthy mentions. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the song I mentioned that made me go whoa is the closing track on the album, the melancholic and beautiful No Lights on Horizon. A brilliant song with brilliant and profound lyrics. This album is impressive from start to finish and well worth investigating, and it would be a real shame if it slipped below people's radar.
I'm Rusty Egan, and you're watching the Electronic Cafe. They've asked me to describe to you a couple of albums that I'm listening to here in 2020. And I have to admit that sometimes I'm very late to the table. That's right, I hear something, go, oh, hello, that was 2018. Why didn't I get to hear that? Well, that's what happened when I heard Endless Forms. You can go to the Facebook group. If you go on YouTube, there's like a heavy metal band, goth. But this is a guy that comes from somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You know that place between New York and LA? That's right, it's called America. He lives there, middle of nowhere, and makes beautiful atmospheric songs. Made a couple of albums, and there's a new one coming out on the 8th of May called More Than Candy. This is a new album. You can get it on, go to a Facebook group and search for Endless Forms. The album before that from 2018, which I'm absolutely loving, I've featured a couple of times on my Twitch. You can get me now on twitch.tv/Rusty Egan. And I just basically play all the music I love, old and new, and chat a lot on the weekends while I'm not trapped, while I'm at home in my studio, which I absolutely love being at home in my studio. I don't really need to do much more, so when I do go out, it's a treat. So I love that. And I think if we all saw the world now as a treat and put music on our beautiful headphones, these are my even headphones, you can graphically equalize them if you've got bad hearing, like me, after years and years. So again, one more time, for the choice of albums today, Endless Forms, and a brand new album by a very old band. Again, I didn't know the band who made an album in 1984. Some people absolutely loved it. They didn't make any more. And now they've come back, like me and dozens of others who have done the family and divorce. And now we're all back doing what we love. Making music, talking about music, sharing music. If you go to Bandcamp, you'll find everyone. You'll be there forever. But you do need someone like me or the guys telling you here, check this out, check that out. So basically, find White Door. They've got an album called The Great Awakening. Kind of Roxy music, Brian Ferry, kind of, I don't know, In Excess, great vocalist, great lyrical content, beautiful musicianship and keyboards and production. And I'm loving that. So check out that on the White Door. And I can say thank you to Electronic Cafe. I hope somebody wins Rusty Egan Presents the Welcome to the Nightmare album on vinyl. Very, very rare, only 500 made, and the Electronic Cafe have got one of them to auction. And if you like, I could sign it for you. Don't want to sign the cover anymore, kind of ruins it. Amazing cover. So, could sign a little note. How about that? Get the album, little note from me. So don't forget, win that album. It's very sought after. You go straight on eBay with it. And thank you very much, and enjoy The White Door and Endless Forms. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, and thanks again for all of your support and positive comments. In the short time that we've been doing this, we've been astounded by the support and positivity that we've received. We've clearly tapped into a vein, and we aim to get bigger and better and carry on giving you the electronic content that you clearly want. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button. Everyone that does will be entered into the competition. And at the beginning of May, we will randomly pick one of our subscribers to receive a copy of the brilliant Rusty Egan Welcome to the Dance Floor vinyl LP, signed and personalised by Rusty himself. So take care, see you next time.